everyone. Welcome to the What's Happening Music Show. I'm Michelle Louise, and with me, I've got Jamie C. And we've got an absolutely amazing episode coming up for you guys. We're going to be talking to Scottish duo Braw. So that's going to be super awesome. And then we've also got some brilliant music that we're all going to be listening to. And as per usual, we're going to kick off with our discoveries. So Jamie, what have you been listening to over the past couple of weeks?
So as per usual, Michelle, my music is always diverse and I listen to a lot of different things, but the three artists I have picked for today are three artists I have really enjoyed, and as always, they are very different genres. So kicking me off is the duo called Post Cole Prom Queen, which is an amazing name, and this is made up of Lily Hickman and Gordon Johnstone. Now think synths, electronic beats, and floating vocals, and you might have something close to their sound. This duo is a direct evolution from the group known as L-Space, who received critical acclaim when they were around, so if you enjoyed them, you're going to really enjoy this. This is absolutely perfect for the electro-pop fan or a fan of the current wave of electronic and synth music that seems to be fairly prevalent in Scotland at the moment. So where should you start with this? Well, start with their latest single, which is called Tomorrow's Garden. It was released on the 2nd of April, and I feel like this is a great doorway into their sound. It's quite a light song, but there's lots of different dynamics that are explored throughout its length. If you like electronic beats and soundscapes that fill every corner of the musical spectrum, then this one is for you. You can also check out Wait Wait Dig, which is a lot more dancey and a bit more retro in its synth character. If you're looking for another song, you can also explore Salt, which is entirely different from those previous tracks mentioned. It's quite dreamy, and there's some dark moments, but there's also some good positive moments, and also some sounds which can only be described as brash. Finally, you can also check out the song You Wouldn't Download a Car, which is just an amazing name, and check it out for that reason. Now, obviously, if you like electronic music, then you should check this artist out, but also check this artist out for their vocal line. If an artist ever deserved the adjective F the real, then this artist deserved it. Her vocals sit very high in the register, but they float excellently across the songs. They're a little bit breathy, but this is complemented beautifully by the mid and low sounds generated by the synth, and of course that electronic drum beat. Now before I pass over to Michelle, I did want to mention one more thing. Post Cole Prom Queen are part of the Cover by Cover album, which is a project by Fiona Little. This album sees a whole host of Scottish musicians cover one another, and they all happen to be female Scottish musicians, and the whole idea of this project is to highlight that there are incredible Scottish artists who are also female in the music industry. So go and check out that album, it is absolutely brilliant. And also remember, all the proceeds of this album go to SWIM, which is Scottish Women Inventing Music, a very worthy cause.
That's awesome. That's such a good cause as well. I love it. Okay, well, so first up for my discoveries is Lacuna J. And so she describes herself as genre fluid, and like I kind of get why, because like to be honest, like her sound is kind of difficult to define. It's like a little bit of pop, some R&B, electro, but like also with some really beautiful soulful ballads. So like she's got a little mix of quite a few different things going on. She writes all of her songs and she totally puts her heart into them. Like she says it's kind of like her diary, and you can absolutely feel it when you're listening to her songs and her lyrics. Like they're just so like strong and powerful. She's got a new song out just from earlier this month, actually, called Fool, bracket, for loving you, close bracket. So definitely check that out. And I'd also recommend having a listen to Taurus and Red Wine. So those would be sort of my places for you to start off with her catalog, but she's got a lot of really good songs going on. So make sure to take a deeper listen as well.
Awesome, I definitely will. You know, I've just mentioned it at the start, but you know I love diversity, so listening to artists that pull lots of genres together is great. And my actually next discovery, while not being genre fluid, is a very different genre from the first one I spoke about. So I'm going down to the southeast of England with my next one, and this is a band called Ransom, and it's for all you classic rock fans. Now, they're a four-piece, and they describe themselves as bringing the stadium rock experience to a venue near you. So that sounds like a sort of band that's going to be nice and rock and heavy in a local bar or a local pub. Now, sadly, I've not seen them in this capacity, so I can't comment on how good they are, but if you do like people like AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, maybe a bit of Def Leppard, then these guys are going to really adhere to your musical taste because they've got a very classic rock sound, but it's in a bit more of a contemporary vibes. So where should you start with these guys? Well, they released a single on the 18th of March called Killing Time. It's full of guitars and drums and bass lines, like any hard rock song that just punch through the whole record, and I think you will enjoy it. I'd also recommend trying out Divided State, which is the same sort of song that it has those punchy guitars and those punchy drums, and I think it sounds great on the record, but I think it probably sounds absolutely kick-ass in a live sphere. So you get my sort of gist with that one. They've also got a Christmas song, which I'm not saying go and check out a Christmas song right now while we're in April, but I really enjoyed this. It was called A Christmas Held to Ransom by Ransom, obviously, and I just enjoyed it because it had lots of nice choruses, it had some great catchy guitars, and had a nice festive soundscape bedded underneath it all. So it was quite deep, but I really enjoyed it, and you know, there's even the inclusion of some acoustic guitar in there as well. So really well produced and a lot going on. So yeah, go and check that out if you like diversity in rock, I guess. Now, if none of those stuff did it for you, you can also go and check out the EP Halfway to Hell, which is basically a whole load of songs that I haven't talked about there, but that really gives a good indication of what they're like. They've also got a cracking solo in Vindication, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, if you're a fan of rock, then go and check out Ransom, and I think I probably need to do this, but it sounds like they're really good in a live sphere too, so when I get the chance, I might go and check them out.
Awesome. Christmas coming early for some people.
Indeed.
Okay, so next up, I've got Talia Jackson. So some of you might be going like, oh, I kind of might recognize that name. Where from? So she's actually an actress from Netflix's show Family Reunion. So if you've watched that or heard of that, you might already know her in that capacity. But surprise, she also sings, which is awesome. So she sort of classifies herself as a dark pop singer-songwriter. So yeah, you get like sort of a lot of really like deep kind of like emotional vibes from her music. It's a little edgy, which is awesome. And the stuff that she talks about as well is just like, it's the kind of stuff that we should be talking about. So, you know, she goes about themes such as like embracing her identity as a biracial woman and overcoming mental health issues and that kind of thing, which are just really great things to be, you know, communicating to a wider audience. So Hidden is her latest single, and it's such a tune with gorgeous vocals and a really cool kind of like new disco beat, which is something new that I learned because I hadn't heard of new disco, although I've heard it loads. I didn't realize that's what it's called. So there we go. We all learned something. But yeah, she's got two other really great songs though, 5-5 and Piece of Me. So check out all of those because they'll just blow you away.
Amazing. One thing actually, I wondered just while you were talking about that, and I just suddenly thought, I've heard people say, this is dark pop, and there was a band I discovered recently who said they were dark disco. I mean, I don't think I've listened to a lot of stuff, but listening to her, is there any traits that come under dark pop?
I think it's just like, because I think the thing is like when you think of pop, like I think the stereotypical thing that you kind of think of is like, I'm showing my age a little bit maybe, but like Britney Spears and like Jessica Simpson and like, you know, like really kind of like bubbly, like upbeat, that kind of stuff. Whereas I think like dark pop is like a little bit more drawn back and a lot sort of like darker. But just like I like the themes are a little bit heavier, the music's a little bit heavier, it's like slightly more emotional, I think. But it can still have that kind of like upbeat feel to it. But I think like it just feels heavier, if you kind of get what I mean. That's like how I feel with it.
Would ballads fall into kind of that dark pop sphere maybe?
I think they can do. I think it depends on the style that the ballad's been done in, because like obviously you get like your really traditional ballads, kind of like Celine Dion and that kind of thing, which is very like ballad. But then it's like you can get like some that I think are done like in a more dark pop thing that are like they still kind of have that little bit of upbeat, but they're like kind of a bit heavier. Like it's more about that kind of like mix of upbeat but kind of heavy if that makes sense, is how I understand it. I mean, totally happy for our listeners to comment and let me know that I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering if it's maybe something to do with how the music's written, maybe written with more minor notes, which are often sadder than major notes. But yeah, I'm sure there's probably some listener out there who knows more about musical theory than us. So if any of the listeners can help us understand what makes dark pop or a different to normal pop, I think that'd be really good.
But no, I think you might be onto something with the minor notes. But yeah.
Well, if anybody's listening that knows, then please do let us know. Now, moving on to my final discovery. Now, your last discovery talked about an artist that takes subjects that we should be talking about, and this artist does something very similar. So this artist is known as Chris Matthews, and very different musically from everything I've spoken about. They are very soul, very uplifting, almost gospel-like in the vocal tone, but something that I think resonates with a lot of people. So her latest album is called Changemakers, which you can probably guess from that title. It's all about trying to change things in the world. It's about searching for justice, it's about searching for equality, and also finding empowerment in the world where things maybe aren't just, or things aren't as they should be. Now, the album is not obviously devoid of those heavy topics, but I think they're all addressed in quite a light manner, as in the music is not heavy, it's not maybe falling under that dark pop as we were saying. It's quite uplifting. You feel that you get lost in the music a little bit, which I think is amazing. So there's a bit of soul in this, there's a bit of country, there's a bit of pop, obviously the gospel that I said, and then there's a touch of folk, and then there's just something else which I couldn't quite place, which I guess must be the magic that Chris Matthews brings to this. So I think if you're a fan of pop and soulful vocals and really truly captivating music, I think this is one for you. I think if you're a fan of Emily Sandé, then I think you might like this. And some people might think, well, you can't really compare the two, but there's a song that actually is not on that album, which is called We Must Be Free, which really made me think of Emily Sandé when I listened to it. That was something I really enjoyed. So if you want to check her out, then go and check out obviously Changemakers, and then check out that We Must Be Free. But she's also got a song called Prodigal Son, which is absolutely excellent as well. So yeah, if you're interested into immersive music, then go and check her out. One of the great things is she has an extensive back catalogue. I think I spent a day listening to it, and I still had many songs left to go. So if you get hooked by this artist, she has a lot to give.
Awesome. All right, so for my final discovery, I've got an indie duo called Callers. So they're like pretty fresh on the scene. Like they dropped their first single, I think in 2020. And so, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. It's called Heartbeats. It came out last year. It's very cool, like kind of retro vibe to it. So definitely recommend checking that out. But if you like it as well, they've got a new single coming out on the 23rd of April called Hey Lizzie, Lay It On Me. And it's a song about one of the best relationships ever, which is best friends. So stoked to hear it. I'm so excited. I hope all of you are too. Like I said, they're pretty new on the scene, so they're still kind of pulling together their catalog and that kind of thing. But the stuff that they're coming out with is amazing. So check them out, and make sure to check out that single when it drops on the 23rd.
Oh, awesome. I always love checking out brand new artists who are breaking on the scene, because they often bring something new which has not been there before. So I will 100% go and check that out. But there you have it, my friends. They are our discoveries for this week's show. They will all be linked in the description of this podcast, so go and check them out, go and discover something new, and of course let us know what you think of these artists. Now it is now time for us to play some music, and it is my absolute pleasure to get on Scottish singer-songwriter Anthony McElwee with Moonshine. I absolutely love this. It's got a great feel, it's got some great catchy choruses. Obviously, let us know what you think about this, but I think this is awesome. So this is Anthony McElwee with Moonshine. welcome back to the What's Happening music show. We are now joined by Glaswegian duo known as Braw. They released their debut album, A Few Miles More, on the 19th of March, and I think it's received quite a lot of attention, and I've listened to it and I've really enjoyed it. So it's really great to have these guys on the show, and welcome. How are you guys doing?
Hey, thank you very much for having us. We are doing good. We are possibly slightly feeling the effects of the sun and a few too many tenants or something yesterday, but we are doing very well considering the circumstances.
Oh, excellent. Well, I don't think anybody can complain that having a beer and the sun is a good thing. So, no, thank you so much for joining us. And I guess the best way to start any of this, for anyone who doesn't know who Braw are, who are you? Where do you come from? Like, just so everyone knows, because everybody can't see this, we have Ian and Andrew on. So, just going to pass over to both of you. Who are Braw, and where do you come from?
Yeah, so Braw, basically, we are obviously a couple of brothers. We grew up together in Pathhead near Edinburgh, just southeast of Edinburgh. We went our separate ways. So I went up to St Andrews to study. Ian went down to Manchester to study. And 2 years ago, 2 years ago, we came together to start singing together, because I always sang. Ian actually released some music beforehand, but we thought it was silly to sing apart, so we came together and we started sort of recording and playing close harmony, sort of pop/folk music. We do sort of quite strong melodies, but with a real emphasis on our the harmony side of things, the Simon Garfunkel Proclaimers style harmony that sort of hits home hard. So we've been doing that for 2 years, and this, as I say, is our debut album, our first serious foray into recording music. So we're hoping everyone enjoys it right now.
So like you kind of mentioned like Simon and Garfunkel and like the Proclaimers, and I definitely do get those kind of vibes from your sound. Would you say like that's the kind of music you were listening to like growing up, and that was like your inspiration for both of you, or like how did you kind of pick the sound that you do?
Bit of a weird one. Yeah, I guess we did listen to a lot of but we got such an eclectic range of musical influences, so I don't really know how it ends up like it does. It just sort of did. But yeah, we listened to a lot of Proclaimers. You know, we love Sunshine on Leith and the album, and to be fair, I didn't listen to much Simon and Garfunkel when I was growing up. I was kind of brought up on a diet of 70s music and things like, I suppose, like David Bowie, and to be fair, whatever was on Dad's big compilation 70s album that he would just play on repeat, so all that kind of stuff. And then like Andrew said, he kind of we both had a bit of different musical backgrounds. He did a lot of kind of musical theatre type stuff, and I was I basically, like you said, I kind of did my own singing, songwriting stuff when I was living down near after I'd finished uni in Manchester. I was living in a place called Darwin, which is like not in Australia, but near Blackburn in England. Not sunny Scottish Blackburn, sunny English Blackburn, both very sunny. Obviously not. So I did kind of the singer-songwriter thing down there a bit. I didn't really enjoy, I don't know. I think I'm okay at writing songs, but I'm not the best performer by myself. So roped Andrew in, and then we kind of, what was the first kind of songs we did? I guess it was Proclaimers. It was literally the song Sunshine on Leith, and we did some Biffy Clyro, yeah. Awesome.
Well, obviously the two of you do the album together, but looking at how the album is constructed, there's a lot in the album. Obviously you guys do the harmonies, but do you do all the instruments as well? Because there's violins, there's pianos, there's guitars.
Yes, so I can claim credit for one thing, which is the vocals, and also the tambourine in track number 5, The Golfers. I played that. Very proud of that. But apart from that, to be honest,
the most important instrument.
It's a great instrument. Ian's very, very talented in terms of as an instrumentalist. He doesn't say that, but he is. He's lying. And he obviously started out initially playing piano, but also guitar. So Ian plays in pretty much all the instrumentation, obviously, you'll see in the tracks, with the exception of obviously the strings. We got in an excellent fiddler, Colin McKee, to do fiddle parts in, for example, Whiskey in Hand, Auld Grey Toun. And we also had, you'll have guessed, obviously, a string quartet in to do a number of the tracks as well, just to, obviously, we like to have a nice full sound. I think it's quite rare for sort of first time early sort of new music recorders to record such sort of luscious, full sort of harmonic sounds, and we just really like having that sort of lovely string quartet in the background.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm very much, I love like this. I quite enjoy my folk music, so it's like and fiddles and like that. Like, oh, it's so uplifting, I find. But yeah, no, that's so like. How was it recording this out? Did you record a lot of this like during 2020, like during lockdown and that kind of thing, or like what? Did you have a lot of stuff that was already kind of prepared, or like how was it in just releasing the album as well when you did like?
So we recorded it. It was a bit of a. It wasn't like we planned, because obviously, like Andrew said, it was the first foray into doing a proper album, and we had recorded a few singles when we started off. We didn't really know what we were doing, so we just like record a song and release it, and then record another song and release it, and just have a bit of fun. And then we planned last year to do like an EP launch, probably at the start of lockdown. And we kind of booked a gig like that in the south side. It was going to be quite cool, but then obviously lockdown happened, so. We just ended up kind of, I guess it gave us more of an opportunity to write. I mean, I was on furlough, and I've still been on furlough the whole time. So I've had loads of time to write music, which has been quite good from that point of view, to be honest, because we definitely wouldn't have got the album kind of done so fast, I suppose, had that not been the case. So yeah, we had a few things recorded before lockdown, and then there was obviously that period where we just wrote quite a lot of stuff, and then when we had the kind of break and restrictions and stuff, then we did we managed to get in and finish it off, and then finish it off early on this year as well, when restrictions allowed. And yeah, it was good. It was dead fun doing it in the studio. It was it's done in Dalmarnock. Is that right, Andrew? Is it Dalmarnock? Yep. I always get the place wrong. Yeah, it is Dalmarnock, which is like a bit of Glasgow. And there's a guy who's dead good. It was at Stealth Recording Studio. There's a guy called Eddie MacArthur who runs it just by himself. So yeah, we have fun. Like Andrew said, I feel bad because I record a lot of instruments, and I'm not very good at all of them all the time. So it takes quite a lot of takes and a lot of meddling to make sure things are fine. So poor Andrew ends up sat there for like ages and ages, and then obviously comes on at the end and does all the good singing, basically.
Fair enough. I mean, that's often a story of how a lot of albums and things come together. It's, you think, oh, someone plays it, I'm like, oh, that's great, we'll go with that sample. But it's actually, you're writing it going, well, actually, I muffed up that note, we need to do that note again, and it's such a laborious process. But the fact that you're able to get into the studio is such a rewarding experience, because I think a lot of people have not been able to do that this year. So obviously you guys have done a bit of music out of doing it as a project. How have you found it as an artist trying to do stuff on social media during 2020? Because it's been a very, very strange time for everyone. You can't do the publicity that you maybe might have been able to do, as you were saying, when lockdown comes you can't do the gigs. So how have you found that?
We have, I think you'd agree, we found it frustrating in some way, in that there's only obviously on social media, there's obviously, it's difficult to get that immediate response. I think that's what everyone's missing right now with gigs. You look, as artists, as people, you want to get your music out there, and you want people to, even if they say, okay, not too sure about that, even if they don't like it too much, to understand that sort of quickly is great, or to get positive feedback is what sort of we thrive on. That's why we do it. But not all why we do it. Obviously, we do it for the fun of actually performing, but that sounded terrible, I realise.
You're allowed to be egotistical, that is allowed.
No,
that sounded
we just take the mick out of ourselves, mainly.
Yeah, mainly. But yes, you're right. It's been frustrating because obviously there's so many people, rightly so, trying to get their music out on social media at the moment, from huge artists to small artists like ourselves. And sometimes, obviously, with the sort of Facebook putting a lot of viewing behind paywalls, for example, they have to actually sort of stump up 10 quid to get your video out to your full follower base. So I think we've got about just over 2,000 followers on Facebook, and we have to pay about £15 so everyone can see every video, which can be frustrating at times. But at the same time, as you said, we're very grateful for what we have been able to do, because we live so close and we could record at the same time in that easing. and we are able still to get our music out there because we're sort of tech savvy enough to use social media. So we'll come back with a vengeance.
Apart from TikTok,
sure.
I still have no clue what I'm doing with TikTok. That blows my mind, but it seems to be the rage at the moment.
I'm sort of like, I feel like nobody over the age of like 22 really understands what's going on with TikTok, to be honest.
No, I'm with you there. But it seems to be if maybe we should have done some sea shanties, Andrew. That might have been. Should have done that. I think it's past now.
I think you can always do sea shanties if you want to.
Oh yeah,
no. I've never written a sea shanty, but to be fair, they could work quite well in harmony. Actually, in fact, I'm sure when these guys sing. What was that film, man? Did you ever watch that film? Was it Fisherman's Friend, or is that a complete? Am I making that up? It might have been. It was a really horrible film that was just one, because we've been in lockdown for so long, and there's so many of these things on Netflix and Prime and Disney and whatever we all pay for. I think there was one that was. I think it was a sea shanty one. It's about like a London-based music producer who goes on a stag do to some part of Cornwall, and then turns out all the fishermen sing sea shanties. Like, it's a terrible watch, but I'd give it a watch for a bit of lockdown entertainment.
No, yeah. Well, actually thinking about that, like, I mean, this probably, I don't know if you're already thinking this far ahead, but like, have you sort of been thinking about like what you're going to do now that you've got the album out? Like, are you really looking forward to, fingers crossed, going out and doing like shows and that sort of thing with it? Are you already starting to write new music? Like, what's kind of next?
So we haven't, so we can't wait to go and actually, perform the music. That would be very cool. I mean, normally when we're playing around Glasgow, it's just me and Andrew, and we'll kind of play piano and guitar and guitar or whatever, and do a harmony just in wee pubs and cafes and stuff like that. And that's what we've done until lockdown. But like you said, Jamie, as well, obviously there's a lot of the album's quite full. There's it's a full band sound and there's strings. So what would be really cool to do is when we can is actually finally have an album launch. Hopefully get a nice venue in the south side of Glasgow and just do a full band show. And we kind of had we potentially had some wee festival things as well. So we're like before all this kicked in, so we basically need an excuse when we have a gig to put the full band together and go and do it, and that will be amazing once we've done it. And then obviously going forward, I think it'll be really reassuring for us, like if we can put on a full band show and do it, we'll be like, we can do this, like this is great. And then once we've, so we'll definitely do that for a full band show when we have a launch party at some point when we can. And then hopefully that will just lead on to us kind of trying, instead of just, we love doing stuff just the two of us and doing our harmonies, like cute, quiet little cafes in Glasgow. Because that's, I don't know, we've had some of the best crowds and like people sing along and it's wonderful, that kind of intimate environment. But yeah, if we can do a proper launch gig, and then that will hopefully give us the kind of desire to kind of go on and try and do some more of that full band stuff as well.
Amazing. I can't, honestly, and you obviously, you can hear it when you're talking about it, I cannot wait for live music to come back. I mean, I was always one of those people that whenever we would go to pubs, and Michelle will testify to this, I always made sure we went to somewhere that had some live music on, because there's nothing better than when you're in a small pub and the atmosphere and everyone is kind of gearing towards what is going. Whether it happens to be a cover artist or someone's doing originals, it's just, there's nothing like it. Now, I guess what a good question would be, because we've talked about the Edinburgh music scene on this podcast before, but we've not talked about the Glasgow music scene much. So could you give the listeners a bit of an insight into what the Glasgow music scene is like?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're very lucky. It's a brilliant scene. It's one of the reasons why, for me, that I was so keen. Ian moved here first. Back in 2017, was it, Ian?
I think that's correct. I asked my wife Steph these things because she's very good with dates. I know nothing.
and I moved in just the start of last year, start of 2020. So that was a good time to move. But the reason why was because the scene is fantastic. In the south side particularly, there is a real variety of open mics, sort of cafe gigs, a lot of them independently run. And there's a real, not just audience, because there's people turn out in droves to these open mics, but performers. There are, every time you go anywhere, there is 10, 15 really high-class performers that you'll have never heard of, because a lot of them maybe are towards their 50s, 60s and don't use social media, but are fantastic folk or pop artists. I think Glasgow sort of thrives off these open mics to the point where if you go into town on sort of Socky Hall Street, there was a couple particularly at Box and Lace and Sleazy's, you might have heard of them, where run by actually quite well established. One, for example, is run in Lace and Sleazy's, has been going for 30 years, and it's done in the basement, and there's, again, 35 fantastic artists every week, every Monday. And then the Box is run actually by one of the guys from Father Son, runs that one. So it's, again, fantastic place. So as well as that, obviously, and the venues that independent artists can hire, like the Glad Cafe in Shawlands, obviously King Tut's, the Icebox, a new one that's popped up in the Gorbals, right through to obviously up to bigger venues like Academy, O2 Academy, and it's but no, we're very lucky, and that's why we're missing it so much. It's because, and just the pub open mics, I won't say what we thrived on in the past. They're so much fun.
Yeah, there's like literally every single night in Glasgow. If you wanted to go and play an open mic, there's a really good pub open mic on. So you can always do that. Especially in the south side, like Andrew said, the south side's amazing, and also just like Socky Hall Street. There's just like that's slightly bigger ones, like more mainstream open mics. But yeah, the south side, like there's so much going on. But like just turning it round a wee bit, we don't. Obviously, we're from Pathhead originally, so we kind of went to school in Edinburgh and stuff like that. But we've never really been to Edinburgh. Like we've never really played in Edinburgh. We've played in Edinburgh a couple of times, like for supporting wee gigs and stuff like that. But like, where is the music scene at in Edinburgh?
Shell, do you want to talk about this or?
Well, like basically what I'm just gonna say is I've got a couple of my few favorite pubs, but like Whistle Binky's like pretty much has amazing live music pretty much every night, I think, like almost.
Nice.
As well, Stramash, which is just so much fun because it's like 2 floors converted. They've got like a massive sort of dance floor, like crowd area, and then a huge stage, and you just get such good live music there. You've got Sneaky Pete's, which is like a little bit more rough and ready, but like it's always a really good night there as well. And then just like, oh yeah, like it's just, and then it's just like, yeah, like you get pub open mic nights like pretty much like everywhere. Like Grassmarket is a really good one for that. Like pretty much like most pubs that you walk into, like chances are there'll probably be an open mic night, like at least one day a week. Like, but a lot of the time I think they do more. But I mean, yeah, like it's just, and especially obviously around fringe time, everything just blows up tenfold. But yeah.
I would also say it's one of those, I think the Edinburgh music scene is one of those places where a group of musicians will follow each other around where like the open mic nights are, or where, say, certain gigs. So if you went to one open mic night, say on a Tuesday, and you went to one on Wednesday, the same people will be there. And it's a nice group, and everybody's supporting each other's music, which is really nice. And I think you also have the option, as Michelle was saying, you could go to like Whistle Binky's or Stramash, and you've got a mixture of cover acts and different genres. Or you could go to somewhere like the Jazz Bar, and you get musicians that can play with their feet, and you know they're just I think I've been in the Jazz Bar and just sat at the back, just literally looking at them with my mouth open, going, "This is amazing."
No, the Jazz Bar. I can't believe I forgot the Jazz Bar. The Jazz Bar is like, amazing.
Where's that one again? Is that the downstairs one?
Yeah, Chamber Street, isn't it?
That's been running for a long time. It was run by a guy called, I can't think of his second name, I think Bill Kyle was his name. He sadly passed away, but his family have taken up and just continuing the sort of tradition that they have on, and it's a really nice place to go. The one thing I think Edinburgh went through a bit of a time when, you know, it was musician against resident, and that wasn't a great time, because there was certain places, like there was the Blind Poet, which was a really great place for music, and then I got shut down because someone moved above it and was like, "Oh, there's a pub above me and I don't like the noise." It's like, well,
yeah, no, yeah, kind of part of the yeah. You just kind of factor that in when buying the flat or something, wouldn't you?
I remember because I used to do a lot of gigs in Edinburgh. I used to do a lot of stuff for kind of singer-songwriters and just people doing kind of pub sort of stuff, and I had that issue all the time with people going, "Oh well, the neighbours are complaining." I'm like, well, tell the neighbours to move.
Don't live next to
it's
a
pub,
yeah.
you know.
No, I don't have a huge amount of sympathy for that one.
But I think that's died down a little bit over the last couple of years. But it is one of those places I think you can, depending where you go, you'll find a lot of different stuff. I think the one thing it does lack, though, it lacks places like the Box that have been going for a long time and have, you go there because that's why you go. You go for the music. Whereas I don't think there's that, apart from the Jazz Bar, I would say, there's not really that many places in Edinburgh that is solely like, will you go because that's where the music scene congregates.
Go out for a couple of drinks and then, a live band.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good though. But no, sorry, just latching on to that sort of like music, like neighbor pub drama, because like it just winds me up sometimes, because it's like these people move to cities like Edinburgh, like Glasgow, because they're like, oh, the cultural scene's like amazing, like it's so artsy, very cool, and then they get annoyed when like the cultural scene like impedes on them, and it's like, so then things like that get shut down, and then everybody's all sad because now there's no live music, and it's like, well, like you can't have like a vibrant, amazing, beautiful cultural city with lots of cool artists and like musicians and stuff, and then like get annoyed when they're working. Like that's like, it's like cognitive dissonance there that just like blows my mind.
Yeah, no, that is a bit.
I feel like we went on a bit of a rant there. You know what grinds our gears.
No. These rants are good. No, it's fine. No, fingers crossed. I hope enough of these. I hope all these music like venues that we played at that we like are just kind of have done okay and will open up again and will manage okay, and the people can actually come and play. Because I remember last time restrictions lifted, it was the live music thing was dodgy with the singing, and they couldn't have live musicians back. So fingers crossed that musicians that isn't just kind of ignored or left on the back burner a bit, that it is actually kind of factored in to like when they lift these restrictions. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So going back to Braw, where or why was Braw the name that you chose?
So yeah, it was a funny one. That's one thing I do claim credit for the name. It's because first of all,
the name and the tambourine, perfect.
But it was it's because a couple of things. So I like the word. It's a nice Scots word, and it kind of emphasises what our music's about. But initially, I've heard the word obviously because I read a lot of like Ur Willie and the Bruins when I was growing up. I love that sort of the Scots almost like comics and language. I think it's great. And also I thought that if someone on the radio said that's Braw, I thought that'd be really funny. Obviously it's not that funny, but I thought it'd be a nice little hint of that. And that was Braw. I was like, hope it was Braw. But as well as that, obviously it's again, it emphasises our sort of the style of our music, sort of the rich harmonies, with Scots influence in there, particularly in sort of Whiskey in Hand, Auld Grey Toun the Tide. But also it kind of sounds like Bro as well. So for a separate audience, they might listen to the fact that we're brothers adds to that.
Yeah, and there was no one called Braw. Amazingly, like when I was kind of googling that to see, I was like, surely something's called Braw, but not really. I think there's a guy who's like Styles Beard or something called. I don't know.
The Braw and the Brave podcast as well, but that's all.
Yes, there is a podcast. It's called Braw and the Brave. Yeah. But they're not cool like you guys. No.
Yes. Not that we're knocking anybody on here.
I know. I'm just kidding. No. No. I don't.
We're going to get an angry email now.
I can't judge.
No, that's cool. I always think it's kind of interesting, like seeing sort of like how people kind of like got together and got into doing things, and like names are so important for sort of like duos and like bands and that sort of thing, because it sort of becomes like, it's like your identity. So it's kind of cool, like always hearing like about where it kind of came about. But just actually in terms of the fact that you guys, I mean, you're brothers obviously, so hopefully you get along quite well, but how is it like sort of working together? Like, do you find like you were sort of talking about how you kind of split the music and that sort of thing, but like, do you find like it's ever difficult or anything like that? Or
we're quite lucky. It's been, we don't really disagree about, we don't really argue about too much. So we've generally always got on all right. So we've been quite lucky from that perspective, and we like the same. We're both massively into like rugby and whiskey, and like, so we get on very well. And yeah, then as far as the musical side of things goes, I guess this kind of songwriting process is Andrew's very good at lyrics. So most of the time it'll kind of be like I suppose an Elton John, Bernie Taupin type arrangement where Andrew will kind of write the lyrics and then I'll kind of come up with the tunes and arrangements, and but then again, Andrew, for some tunes he might come up with a bit of a melody or come up with a bit of harmony, like he'll come up with his harmony or something like that. And then and I guess that I should probably mention Steph, because I feel bad when I don't. So my wife Steph is awesome at she's really good at lyrics as well, actually. So she wrote lyrics for 3 of the tracks on the album. I'll give her credit where it's due. Interestingly, I was going to say she actually wrote Home from Home, which is a kind of an interesting one, because that was about, because she's English, she's from down in Cheshire. And that was about her experience moving to Scotland. It's nice. It's a real kind of family affair.
I think as well we're lucky the fact that there's no cross purposes. We don't actually, because we're not competing for anything really. We never would. In terms of obviously music things, we like to play similar things, but we never compete for who sings a melody or harmony. We like to both. No, it's not like a sort of Gallagher situation here. And I think, to be honest,
5 years later,
famous last words. But I think
we'll put a bookmark into this. So when they write the documentary, go, well, we were there when they were a powerful dynamic duo.
Yeah. But I think we want to do well with each other. One of us wouldn't want to do well with the other one not. So we want to both sort of enjoy the music and gain from the music as well for each of us.
Yeah, and basically just the plan would be to just try and do it full, because obviously we both have jobs and
jobs.
And we just jobs. But we just kind of do it when we can. But yeah, the dream would be to kind of just make enough from it to do it full time. That'd be very cool. And yeah, we don't hate each other too much to spend much time together, so that was fine.
I think that is the dream, and I do have to say, having listened to the album, it's very well produced, and obviously your harmonies work perfectly together. The songs are also really, really well written. So, my fingers crossed that hopefully things do start turning over, and when we can have gigs and things back, that things come your way, because the sound's really, really great. And obviously, some of your singles have ended up in charts as well. So I think it was the Whiskey one ended up in the Apple charts. Is that right?
Yeah, the Whiskey in Hand did. And thank you very much. It's very nice of you to say things like that. We appreciate it. The Whiskey in Hand was that ended up in the Scottish singles chart when that was still a thing. And weirdly we can claim it was number 1 because it was categorized on iTunes as was it traditional folk or was it Celtic folk? I can't remember.
It was classed as traditional folk, yes.
Which it definitely isn't, but we'll take it. Because like all the
any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, all the other stuff on the iTunes charts was like I don't know, like the Loch Gelly pipe band and and stuff like that. But we scored number 1 on the iTunes charts for that particular niche category. But yeah, we had some fun with because of lockdown with the videos and stuff like that, and we got lots of family for that one. We had loads of family and friends involved. Basically, like if it's a laugh if you want to have a look at the video. It's just like passing a glass, basically having a sip of whiskey and then passing it through the camera, like Zoom style. Because we're quite amateur, all our music videos and stuff like that, we've just kind of done them ourselves on iPhones and edited them on fun things like Windows Movie Maker, and we're very advanced. So we had some really good feedback, and as we can't really ask for much more as kind of independent musicians. Like all the local radio stations have supported us and played the music, and it's been really good. And there's podcasts like yourself, and just lots of independent stuff. There's like people working together for each other. It's been lots of good feedback, and it is a very good music scene in Scotland, and there's a good supportive network. We've been enjoying it. I lost what the question was. I forgot about that, but sorry.
I don't think I asked the question. I think I was just commenting that you'd done quite well on charts. But I think, as you said, I think that speaks volumes for the Scottish music scene. I I always say there's a great community behind it. Doesn't even matter which city you're in, or if you're in the Highlands, where I think there's a good general support network. But I do have a question, and this is going to be, I think we're quite close to running out of time, so this will be one of the last questions. But hypothetically speaking, if when gigs open again, and you could play with any musician, and they could be dead or alive, and you can play or perform them with whatever capacity, who would you pick and why?
Musician or band, or is it both there?
Musician, band, artist, producer, anybody.
I'll let you go first, Andrew, if you want to.
Just for the sheer creativity, I think it'd be great to perform with David Bowie. Would be ridiculous. I mean, just because of the guys, sort of how enigmatic he was, and the sheer variety of stuff that came out of his head.
We have to dress up as well,
yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great. We don't take ourselves seriously, so I think that'd be right up our street.
Dave.
And what about you?
Dave would be pretty cool. Yeah, there's so many amazing bands and amazing songwriters and musicians. People like, I suppose there's people like Freddie Mercury, but you couldn't really perform with Freddie. We couldn't weigh in on him and Queen. That'd be let them do their own thing. But yeah, I quite like. It'd probably be really cool to perform with a singer-songwriter, we could do some if we perform with the Proclaimers, that'd be mega cool. I really like Jamie Cullum as a singer and songwriter and musician. I think he's really cool. He writes quite some of the pop music he writes. I kind of really like and take quite a lot from. But we really like. There's a lot of the Scottish. Sorry, I know this is probably meant to be a one band answer or something like that, but the Scottish music scene, some of the kind of Celtic hip hop stuff that's coming out right now is really we really like Tidelines, we like Scary Vor, we like Rura. These bands are all great. So if we could ever perform or support with them, that'd be amazing.
No, amazing. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been so nice chatting with you both and just finding out a little bit more about you and the process and talking about the album and that sort of thing. So thanks so much for sitting down with us and having a wee chat. And I think you guys have got a song that you're going to introduce for us?
Yep, we do indeed. So we're going to introduce the song that was last recorded for the album. So the most recent song on the album, on our debut album, A Few Miles More, which is called Auld Grey Toun, and is written actually about my university town, St Andrews, and it's written as a wee sort of fun and a happy look back, because sometimes you can look back on a place with negative feelings because you've left there, but it's all about looking back and enjoying the memory. So yes, we're happy to introduce Auld Grey Toun from our debut album, A Few Miles More.
And thank you so much for having us on.
Walk the empty streets and you can feel the history of warmer days concealed. It's quiet now, the sun's gone down, there's no one left to fill those empty sounds. But in your place, there's always a time that you can just begin to thrive. You can feel that just for a moment this old grey town comes alive. You can fly along the sands and tabletops, then to shy and leave the stage to grand applause. You're joined along the way by faces come from far and wide. Familiar faces few and far between. Your mouth is dry, a shadow stalks your way. The wind is freezing o'er that eastern bay. But on this day, it's not built for you. There's younger men who now are passing through. They will feel that just for a moment this old grey town comes alive. Along the sands and tabletops, and
You just listened to Old Grey Toun by Braw. Hopefully you enjoyed that, my friends, and hopefully you enjoyed the interview that Michelle and myself had with Ian and Andrew. We really enjoyed getting to know these guys, understanding the message behind their music, and what it was to be in Braw. Now, if you like that, please go and check out A Few Miles More. It's an absolutely amazing album, and I'm not the biggest folk fan in the world, but I really enjoyed every single single on this. So go and check it out, go and listen to it, go and help explore it, follow them on social media, and share their music. Now, as always, if you like what we do with What's Happening Music and this podcast, then please help us share and just promote this podcast as best you can to all your friends who you think would like to discover music in the same way we do. If you will listen to this on YouTube or maybe on Mixcloud or even SoundCloud, then please give it a like and please give it a share. If you're listening to it on Spotify, please follow us and also share it there. And that all leaves me to say is everything that we've talked about in this podcast is in the description below. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next What's Happening Music show. Until then, have a great day. Peace.